What if the fresh start you've been craving ends up sending you back to exactly where you began? We're figuring that out together. Welcome to Humans Forward, the show that makes being human feel a little less complicated. I'm your host, Gentry Lusby. Have you ever had one of those days where you're like, screw it, I'm selling everything, moving to a tropical island, living off of coconuts and good vibes? Yeah, well, today's guest actually did that. Meanwhile, I haven't changed my Starbucks order in over a decade because I'm afraid I'll regret it and just then regret everything in my life. Starting over on a tropical island sounds dreamy, right? Until you realize, oh wait, I'm still me, just with really spotty Wi-Fi. 10 daiquiris in, you're starting to wonder, does Amazon Prime even ship here? The truth is, some of us can't even commit to a new haircut. Just ask 14-year-old Gentry who tried Sun-In one summer and lived to regret it for like a year. Let alone an entirely new identity in an entirely new place. Today's guest is helping us figure out what it means to start over and what happens if it doesn't go the way you planned. Welcome to Humans Forward, LaVale.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we're going to talk more about how you ended up moving to the island, but first we're going to play a little game. It's called Hindsight Hotline. And so I'm going to give you these fictional scenarios. A lot of them have to do with starting over or moving somewhere. And you have to give your best advice in like 10 seconds or less for each one.
Okay.
I don't have a timer, so it's not like I'm going to buzz you out or anything. But
Okay, great.
all right. Are you ready?
Maybe, yes.
All right. Here we go. I just quit my job, sold everything, and moved to an island. It's been a week, and shockingly, my problems are still here. What do I do?
What do I do? I don't know what to do, but the realization, the quip is everywhere you go, there you are. Never, ever forget that.
Yeah.
You
All
cannot escape that.
That's good. That's good advice right there. There you go. There's your 10-second advice. All right. So I moved to a new country expecting instant best friends, but so far I've only bonded with my grocery store cashier. Is something wrong with me?
No, nothing is wrong with you, but the best way to make friends is talk to people and then cook for them. Invite them over for a meal at your house. Cook for them.
That's great advice.
Yes.
That's great advice for anyone, not just people relocating. All right.
Even the people at the grocery store.
Even the
Invite them
cashiers. Yeah.
for a meal. Exactly.
All right. I thought relocating would magically fix my marriage. Turns out we just fight in a prettier setting now. Any advice?
First of all, that's 100% true. But no, I would just say be prepared for growth because you end up spending a lot of time together that you didn't previously. So yes, you will grow.
All right. Good advice.
You will.
Let's see. I swore I wouldn't miss home, but now I'm crying over pictures of my dog and craving food I used to complain about. Is this normal?
Extremely normal. Yes.
Oh, here we go. I figured if this move didn't work out, I could just come back like nothing happened. But now everyone is asking me why I gave up. Please help me. What do I say?
Well, I'm just trying to remember what I said because I did feel like I was giving up, but my answer was always I missed my people.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah.
I missed my people.
Yeah. I tried manifesting the hell out of my dream life, but nothing is happening. So do I just keep waiting or is there something that I'm missing?
No, I think that you really have to follow your instinct and take risks sometimes, even if you're not exactly sure of the outcome. Sometimes you just have to rattle the cage.
Yeah.
Get a different result.
Yeah. All right, last one. Slower lifestyle equals less stress, right? So then why am I panicking about the fact that nothing is open when I need it?
Yeah. What was the first part of the question?
Slower lifestyle equals less stress.
Oh, yeah, no, that's absolutely not true because back to my first thing that I said, wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah.
With a slower lifestyle and more downtime and more kind of isolation, really, you are very much confronted with yourself. And then you realize, oh my God, I'm the most annoying person. So that's a little bit problematic
So
and
that's
shocking
something to look forward to.
because you really are the most annoying person,
Yeah. Well,
you know.
you're just with yourself all the time
Correct.
with so much time to now think
So
about
much
yourself.
time. So much time.
All right. All right. Good advice. Well done on the hindsight hotline. How many apps are you juggling to keep your work on track? You've got one for notes, one for communication, one for updates, one for project management, and somehow the most important piece of information you needed still got buried in an email thread somewhere. I used to feel like this all the time until I found ClickUp. Now, I manage my entire business with it, from creating content to project management to even producing the Humans Forward show. ClickUp is how I keep everything organized and moving forward. ClickUp adapts to how you work. So whether you're working solo or you're working with a team, it helps you stay focused and organized. It's kind of like having a personalized command center for your business or your life, let's be honest, that helps you stay organized and get things done. And you can try it for free using my link, gentrylusby.com/ClickUp. It's an affiliate link. So if you sign up using the link, you help support this show. Go check out ClickUp. It's the all-in-one productivity platform to manage your work your way. Okay, let's be honest. How's your email marketing game going? I have spent more hours than I probably should admit on trying all the different email marketing platforms and dealing with clunky editors and then wondering what my open rates were. And honestly, all of that changed when I found Kit. Kit made email marketing really, really simple, especially for creators and entrepreneurs who want less hassle and more impact. You can write engaging emails really fast and simply. You can even do advanced automations or simple automations. It's all right there for you. And there's lots of data that you get access to see just how all of your emails are performing. So no fluff, no corporate nonsense, just a really powerful tool made for people like us. It's also trusted by people like James Clear and Tim Ferriss and Pat Flynn. And you can try Kit for free using my link, gentrylusby.com/Kit. By using that link, you're not only upgrading your email game, you're also supporting this show because it's an affiliate link. Check out Kit, email made effortless. Before we talk kind of specifics about your story, I'm just curious, why do you think there is such an allure for people about fresh starts, starting over, anything to do with just new beginnings? Why is that so appealing to people?
Well, because life is very mundane and demanding. So I think sometimes people, it's a relief to fantasize about doing nothing, you know, or doing something so different. And that's, I just really relate to that. Life can feel like Groundhog Day,
Mhm.
except with like new stress every day, you know? So I get it. It's an easy thing to fantasize about.
Do you think that starting over feels like an escape for people?
Yes. Yes. It is an escape. And it also, again, just kind of there's something about just shaking things up that can feel really invigorating and motivating for certain people, you know?
Yeah.
Not everybody is built that way, but I feel like a lot of people fantasize about that process, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely had my dreams of I still have my dreams. What do I mean? I've had my dreams. I have like dreams of moving to the French countryside and
I was
like
gonna say, go to
having
Europe. Go
yeah.
to Europe.
I'm like I'm there. Nice little cottage in Provence with a little
Oh,
olive
I
tree
love
orchard. Okay, so what do you think are some of the biggest motivations behind people wanting to start over?
Oh, well, I think that the little harder components of life
Mhm.
that are like you don't know how to change,
Mhm.
or you're, just feeling challenged in whatever area. Just things like for example, if you're feeling like you're constantly pulled in a bunch of different directions all the time by
Mhm.
obligations, people, demands,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like the reality is that I am in control of that. But when you are living that, you don't think that that's really in your control, if that makes sense. Like you're meaning, yeah, you might see a therapist because you're overwhelmed, and your therapist is saying, well, you need better boundaries and you
Mhm.
need to,
Yeah.
communicate better, and you need to, do, but that's hard. Like
Right.
that's really hard work, right? And not everybody knows how to do that. So again, that's so kind of escaping things that ultimately I am responsible for,
Mm.
you know?
Yeah.
Making a big change in location or selling everything and starting over somewhere else, is it creates a cutoff, to all of those things that kind of pile up, and really does give you a fresh start, so to speak, and a good reason, right?
Yeah.
For to end all of these maybe hard relationships or difficult responsibilities.
Yeah.
It's a good excuse, being like, oh, I don't live there anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Right.
don't work there anymore, or like, oh, I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
And then, people move on,
Yeah.
and
So
so do
you're
you.
you're a very self-aware person, but do you think most people realize they have control over all of these things that feel out of their control?
On some level, I mean, even for me, all the therapy and everything that I've been through in my whole life, like I do know that
Mhm.
these things are in my control, but that still doesn't give me the the motivation or the activation to change things, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. So
Yeah, no, that makes
sometimes
sense.
starting over is just easier
Yeah, it's like
when
a shock to
really.
the system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were the motivations for you and your husband to decide to start over, and specifically in your case, sell everything and move to a tropical island?
My husband had been kind of fantasizing about that for years, for several years, and I would just laugh and be like, "Dude, you're insane! Like,
Yeah.
we're never doing that.
Yeah.
We're never doing that." But then the at the beginning of the pandemic, and as the months kind of went on and everything, I was like, dude, if we're gonna do anything, like we might as well just do it now, because the world has just gone to shit, man.
Right.
So we were um in transition with our work life. We were feeling pretty overwhelmed with a few obligations that we had, relationships, obligations, and things. And we had the opportunity to do it. So it was kind of like, if we're gonna do it, now's our chance.
Mhm.
There was just
Mhm.
a few factors that all kind of came together. I mean, were we escaping something? I don't know. I Not in particular. We weren't really running from anything. We just, again, we're like, dude, if we're gonna shake it up and try this, now's our chance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
As you started to tell people that you were gonna do this, how did people respond?
I mean, just absolutely shocked. They I don't think that, particularly my closest people, I don't think they really, like, they were saying, I can't believe you're doing this, up until the morning of our flight that we left,
Mhm.
like every step of the
Mhm.
process
Mhm.
of, the decision, selling the house,
Mhm.
selling everything we own,
Mhm.
making all the arrangements. They were like, I can't believe you're doing this.
Mhm.
up until the last day. And then when we were finally there and gone, I would talk to them, and then it turned into, I can't believe you did this.
Yeah.
Like, they still just, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I used to joke to people too, but it wasn't really a joke because I was like, dude, I've made all the decisions about where we're going to live, what we're going to do, what our life's going to look like. I've made all those decisions with my husband. And this is something that he wanted to try. And I was like, you know
Yeah.
what, dude? Like, let me give him this. Let me give him this, you
Yeah.
know? I know
Yeah.
that sounds kind of controlling or whatever, but
No.
it wasn't that serious. But
Yeah.
it was more of like, this is something that he really has been thinking about a lot. So
Yeah. And you wanted to support that?
yeah, I wanted to
Yeah.
support that. So I was like, what the hell? Let's try it. You
Yeah.
know?
Was there any part of you that felt like something was broken either within yourself, within your marriage, within your relationships that you thought this would fix?
Kind of, not necessarily in my marriage, but my son was about, I think, what, 22 at the time, and he's delightful man now. So, but I will just share my perspective on it. So my son was about 22 at the time, and he had some real challenges, you know, and kind of launching into adulthood. He wasn't. I don't know. That's his story to tell with all of that. But my
Yeah.
perspective and my husband, we talked about it. We're like, you know, it might be good for him, like for us just to not be around, you
Hmm.
know, for a little while. And I know that sounds so harsh. It really does. And that was not the primary motivation, but it was, as a mother, I was curious, like, okay, like, well, you
Yeah.
know, I need to see how this is gonna affect him. And if
Yeah.
it was terrible, I was prepared to cancel the whole experiment immediately
Yeah.
and move back to be close to my son. Like, it
Yeah.
wasn't, you know, but it was, that was hard. That component was really hard. And I talked to my son very honestly about that. I was like, dude, if you feel like I am abandoning you in any way by making this move, I will not go, you know?
Yeah.
So we had lots of talks about that, and it was okay. And that was the one of the things that ended up working out incredibly, you know, because he really launched, not because we were gone, but it ended up being a very positive season for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is pretty incredible.
Yeah. He
Right.
met his wife.
Oh,
He
did
met
that happen while you
Yes.
guys? Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. I don't think I realized that. That's incredible.
Yes. I have other relationships in my life too, where when I was gone from their lives, they met their significant other. You being one of them,
Ah.
and my other cousin, my other cousin too.
So the
So
story is,
I don't know what
you
that's all
know,
about.
I don't know what the meaning of that is.
I
I'm
don't
not
know
even going to
either.
try to unpack that.
It's just something I've noticed that people that I love with my whole entire heart, when I'm out of their lives, they find their soulmates.
That's really funny. And then we
And
all come back together.
yeah, no, it's great.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, okay, you caught it when you were talking about, I'll cancel this whole experiment back when you were in the middle of making the decision. Not like hindsight is 2020, but back when you were in the middle of it. Did you think it was an experiment, or was this like ride or die, like we're going and we're never coming back?
Yeah, I mean both, right? Because we did go all in. I mean, I literally sold a massive property's worth of stuff.
Yeah.
Sold our house,
Sold
got rid
multiple
of
properties,
sold multiple property, did
cars,
not
everything.
cars, yeah, did not get a storage unit. We kept literally nothing.
Why did you do that? Why did you do it that way?
Well, again, because as we were talking about the decision, I was very honest with my husband. I was like, look, if I have something to come back to, I'm gonna come back. Like
Interesting.
100%, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So it was kind of, we did it kind of like preemptively expecting that we would need a reason to stick it out, you know?
Mhm.
And that ended up proving true. You
Mhm.
know, I don't know if we would have lasted as long as we did. if we hadn't have done it that way.
Yeah.
We really wanted to just stretch ourselves in that way. Yeah, so that we were in the ride or die,
Yeah.
mentality, but it was
Yeah.
still an experiment.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you regret anything about doing it in that particular way?
No, not any real regrets. I mean, I do have some creature comfort regrets. Like I really loved our house at the time.
Yeah.
When we sold it and moved out of there, I really, really loved that property. So the only regret, if you can call it that, is sometimes I just think back and I miss that house.
Did you see this decision and this move as more of an adventure, a reset, or an escape hatch?
All three, actually. It definitely felt like an adventure. It definitely felt like an escape. And it definitely felt like a restart, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't know what any of that meant really at the
Yeah.
time,
Yeah. So, what were your biggest fears as you were getting ready to move, and what were you the most excited about?
Wow, biggest fears. I was afraid of everything. I mean, to be to be honest, like I'm kind of a scaredy cat, like in general. Meaning, I have a lot of anxiety and I have a lot of like irrational fears and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
throughout my life, I've learned to just like do stuff
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah.
Um, so I was afraid of a lot of things, just the unknown of what it was going to be like living there, and I didn't
Mhm.
know how I would feel, being away from my family and my son. Yeah, so I was afraid of a lot,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah. What were you the
Yeah.
most excited about, though?
Just the adventure of it, I mean, because it's still cool to say, like,
Mhm.
dude, we sold everything we own and moved to an island,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's true. Like, that is, that is the adventure piece, and there were elements of that experiment that embodied that, that it was cool,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and adventurous.
Yeah. What would you tell someone now who's like, "Hey, I feel like I need to go on this adventure. I feel like I need to sell everything and move to wherever."
I would just give them a reality check to say, it's hard,
Mhm.
like it's just like life anytime, whether
Mhm.
you're in the mundane of an existence that stretches on for decades or you're in a brand new experience. It's like you have good stuff, you have bad stuff, you have challenging things, you have, easy, wonderful, beautiful things, you have, magical
Mhm.
things, you have horrible things, putting yourself into a new environment like that, like moving to another country,
Mhm.
really kind of unravels your sense of place and your sense of security in a way.
Mhm.
It unravels a lot,
Mhm.
so you have to be I want to say you have to be prepared for that, but you can't
Yeah.
prepare.
Yeah. Because you don't know how you're gonna unravel.
You don't, but you will unravel.
Yeah.
Promise.
So let's talk about unraveling in your experience. So you sold everything, literally everything. You packed up, you moved to Roatán. When were you thinking, oh shit, this might not be what we thought? And when did the unraveling start? And how did it start? Like, what happened after you moved there?
Yeah, well, I mean, upon first arriving, we had arranged a rental house. We found a rental house that it was flexible but long term if we
Mhm.
wanted it to be. And the pictures looked amazing.
Mhm.
So we so we arrive at this place. First of all, the very first two people that we met, the people who were renting us this house, remain friends of ours today. They were the first people that we met, and we remain friends with them. And thank God for them.
Mm.
You know, I feel like if they wouldn't have been so warm and delightful, because I was crying. I mean, I got off the plane in Roatán and I was sobbing. Like when we landed on this beautiful island, it was
Yeah.
gorgeous. Like
Yeah.
from the air, landing on this tropical island, I was weeping
Why?
on the airplane. You know, I just was so just leaving. And I
Mm.
really, again, us selling everything the way we did and not leaving anything behind to come back to, really, um, that was a big, real loss
Mm-hmm.
and transition, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I cried and cried for days and days and days, you know? And then we arrive at this rental house, and the people we met were just the warmest, most lovely. Like it's a mother and a daughter, and she had a little boy at the time and a little pit bull puppy. And so we arrive at this house, and this cute little 18-month-old is, like, you know, out there, and we meet the mom and the daughter and the little puppy, and you know, it just helped. It
Yeah.
helped. But I was incredibly sad.
Were
I
you
really was.
surprised that you were sad?
I was surprised at how sad. To be honest, I knew I would be sad, but I was surprised
Mm-hmm.
by how sad, you
Yeah.
know? So, you know, so we get into this house, and it's a lovely house, like beautiful, you know, and the view was amazing, had a wraparound screened in porch. It was like, you know, lovely. But the floor, you know, it was up on stilts, this house. And the floor, like, you know, you could see daylight like through the
Got
thing,
it.
and like
Yeah.
sometimes little critters would like get through the floorboards in the house and stuff. And you know, I mean, it was just it was an island house, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So that was kind of my first thing where I was like, oh God,
Yeah.
and it's hot. It was
Yeah.
just hot, you know. I
Yeah.
was hot and sweaty all the time. And my hair was frizzy,
The
and
realities of island life settling
oh
in.
God, everything just felt like uncomfortable, you know. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to make some adjustments, you know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah. So you move there. I am curious, while you were in those first, however long that was, weeks or months, when you were crying and you were sad, did you feel like something was wrong, or did you know this is just the grief of letting go of my past life, so to speak, like what we just came from? Or was that like a red flag, like, oh no, something's wrong, I gotta fix this?
no, I don't know. Didn't necessarily feel like something was wrong, but it was definitely a grieving.
Process.
Um, yeah, oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You know, so then we tried, and not tried, we did, you know. So we set about just like exploring the island and,
Yeah.
you know, getting to know the place, because we knew very little
Yeah.
about it. You know, back previously when we had visited and we met with the realtor, we explored some areas and things, and kind of understood what part of the island we would like better and things
Hmm.
like that. But yeah, we had to buy a vehicle. So in the first, week, we had rented a car, and then we had to buy a vehicle.
Hmm.
Like we had to establish ourselves there.
Yeah.
And that was just all very challenging, because we were from the US in Honduras, and we had to purchase things and
Hmm.
transfer money and get an account. You had to have
Hmm.
insurance, and your registration was weird. And,
Yeah.
so just working through all of that kind of kept me busy enough, I guess, so that I would have moments where I was just crying, and then other times when we were just trying to logistics, it's just logistics, trying to
Yeah.
figure out how do we establish ourselves here.
Yeah. Did it feel different than what you were coming from?
Oh man, everything was different. Everything. Yeah. I mean, you move to another country, the whole system of living is different.
Right.
All of the legal requirements are different. Um, I mean, the money is different. The banking procedures are different. Everything is different.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And it's a Spanish speaking country and we don't speak Spanish. So that was fun.
So there's that.
There's that.
How did you and Mojo, your husband, how was your relationship at this point? How did it handle the transition?
Like my husband and I are we're always friends, you know. Which thank God for that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like we really relied on each other differently,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I was not comfortable kind of going out and about on my own for about 3 months. That we lived there 3 months before I actually went in the car by myself somewhere,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah.
So my reliance on him was different, because I didn't feel as independent because I wasn't as, sure of my
Yeah.
surroundings
Yeah.
and what the expectations were. I didn't know. So it took a while to make those adjustments, you know? So was it harder on us? I don't know. It's as hard on us as you would think it would be to spend 24/7 with your spouse and literally have no other relationships or outlet.
Yeah.
It's as hard as you would think that would be.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is going to vary for everyone, right? Did it get to a point where it was good?
I have to be careful because the longer I'm away from that experience, like I'm working on it, but I have a tendency to where the story of the experience in my mind is becoming more kind of like dramatic and not
Got it.
necessarily in the most positive light, which
Yeah.
is not true. It's really not true.
Yeah.
I don't know why my brain works that way. And
I
anyway,
think a lot of us do that.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. But there were so many good things that happened, you know. Again, there were just so many good things along the way that happened. Did I ever get to a place where I woke up one day and I was like, this is so good? Totally like
Yeah.
that? I don't think I did.
Yeah.
But there were good things in all of that experience, you know, that I will appreciate forever.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. Which makes sense.
Yeah.
So we're going to pick up on the decision to move back home, and then we're also going to talk about this is not the only time you've started over. So we're going to just talk a little bit more about starting over and lessons learned. But before we do that, we're going to take a little break, and we are going to do a little game that I am calling Trick or Truth, Expat Edition. So here's what I have. I have statements. Some are true, some are made up. And I'm going to read it to you. You have to tell me if you think it's true, it would be true. If you think it's made up, you say trick. I'm curious because they might not match your experience. So some of these are stats about expats. So I'm actually curious then if it matches up with your experience, the ones that are true or the ones that are fake. So I'll read you a statement, trick or truth. Got it? All right.
I think so.
All right, here we go. Most people who move abroad end up moving back home.
Truth.
That is truth. There was a study in 2019, 30% of expats return within 5 years, but most people return home.
Okay, makes sense. That tracks.
Yeah. How long were you in Honduras?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Living on an island is much cheaper than living in the U.S.
That's a trick.
I think it's both and. It's like it just depends on which island and where you are, but in general, islands have higher cost of living.
In general, absolutely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Once you leave, your problems disappear. I probably shouldn't laugh. I give it away.
That's a trick.
That is a trick, which feels like I don't really need a study to back that up, but there are experts in relocation psychology
Oh, nice.
And they have noted that expats often follow their personal struggles, follow them, and moving amplifies existing relationship and identity issues.
Oh my,
I feel like
100%.
saying like, no shit, Sherlock.
100%. 100%.
All right, making local friends in a new country is easy.
I'm gonna say true.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say truth. The data says it's not true, but I
Really?
think your experience, that's why I was curious how your experience matches up with the global
Yeah.
consensus. Yeah. Just because of cultural differences, language barriers, things
Yeah.
like that. Not everyone knows to invite people over and feed them to make friends. So,
Feed the people and they will come, trust
yeah.
me.
People who make drastic life changes are more likely to be happier in the long run.
Wow. I would probably say that's a truth.
That's a trick.
Really?
Yeah, people often experience a temporary honeymoon phase, but their baseline happiness tends to return to previous levels.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
My baseline happiness changed so dramatically after this experience that I don't even I'm not even really sure what that looked like before.
Is that it changed for the better or for the worse?
Um, I would probably say for the better. For the better. I mean, I'm still me. I still
Yeah,
have my struggles that I've
yeah,
always had, you know what I mean?
yeah,
But yeah, but wow, it just changed.
yeah.
My baseline for a lot of things changed.
Is it, tell me why that happens? Because that probably happens for a lot of people.
Yeah, and I can see why that would be noted as a trick, right? Because um again, it's really hard to be confronted with yourself in isolation like that. Isolation meaning away from everything that you're familiar with, you know,
Yeah.
because that is an isolating experience because you show up in this new environment as the person who is in your current experience, and then the next moment you're in this entirely new it's very isolating feeling like you're
Mhm.
alone in your experience that you are leaving and in the one that you're kind of entering. It's very isolating, you
Mhm.
know. So I can see how people would that their baseline happiness would not kind of go in a positive direction, but my expectations about life improved, you know.
Yeah.
I would say I was kind of a bougie, entitled person. I didn't think I was. I mean, the bougie, yes, but entitled, not really. Until I moved to this new place, and I'm like, oh man, okay, wow. You just have to tone down your expectations about
Yeah.
everything,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And those things I have, some of those things I've kept,
Right.
you know,
Right.
since
Yeah,
we've
your
been.
whole perspective probably shifts, your expectations shift. And if you let it, I think that's probably key. If you let it, it can then influence you moving forward.
Yeah.
But some people would
Yeah,
just be like, well, fuck that. I'm going back to exactly who I was and exactly how things were.
that's right. And we still have not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we still have not.
All right. I got a couple more for you. Burnout is one of the top reasons people feel the urge to start over in life.
I would say that's true.
Yeah, that's true.
But
So
selling
obvious.
everything you own and moving to an island is not necessarily a solution to burnout, you know?
Good advice. Good
Not
advice.
necessarily the solution.
Regret is less common in people who take big risks.
I would say that's true.
It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it says studies show people are more likely to regret inaction than action, even if their risks don't work out as planned.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I can
100.
relate to that. Like, I
Yeah, yeah.
regret more of the things I haven't done than the things I have done.
Yeah, I don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have regrets, I just have better perspective, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. People reinvent themselves multiple times in life.
No.
No, really? Okay, tell me why.
I would say no. Is that true?
Yeah. I mean,
Really?
it's true according to, data and studies, but tell me why.
Well, I'm so glad to hear that. I really am. I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, I've reinvented myself a million
Yeah.
times
Yeah,
in
okay,
my
so
life.
let me
But
tell you.
sometimes when I look around, in my life, I don't see other people doing that. Like I've often been in a reinvention,
Yeah.
phase, and I'm like, what the hell? What's everybody doing?
Yeah. No, that
You
makes
know?
sense. Yeah. It says that people have major identity shifts every 7 to 10 years,
Oh,
often because of
yes.
career changes, relationships, or just personal growth in general.
Okay. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, no. Well done, humans.
Good news. Yes. Good job.
Okay, so interesting facts about moving abroad and starting over. But for you, what was the moment where you knew you had to move back home?
Mm. This is the sad part. Um, I probably could have stayed a little bit longer, but we had some very close, within a few months, my husband's brother passed away suddenly.
Mm,
One of our dogs that we had with us down there, got sick and we had to put him down.
mm,
And then a very good friend, for a decades long friend, was killed in a car accident. Um, and I came home for his funeral, and I never went back to Roatán.
mm.
It was I really really just wanted to be here with everyone.
Yeah.
It was a very much of a community grieving process when he passed away, and I never went back after that.
Was that your plan?
No.
So how did that happen? You came back for the funeral to be here for your friends, be part of the grieving, and what happened? Like, why did you stay?
Well, I take that back. I guess we maybe had talked about it but there was not a plan. After Mojo's brother died was when we first started talking about, like, dude, this is too hard. Like, being away from people, and
Yeah, tell me more about that. So his
yeah,
brother died, and that's when
his
you start
brother,
having
yeah.
conversations.
Yes, and then on one of my trips back here after that, after he passed away, I bought a house here. I bought a house. It was like a just in case. It was a just in case. And we bought it, closed on it, and didn't live in it. I didn't come back here then for, like, I don't know, a few months, several months after we bought the
Okay.
house. It was literally just sitting here, which I know sounds insanity. And it was, but I don't know, man.
So we're on a different level here. We're talking about selling everything, moving to an island. So buying a just in case house on a trip home
right.
isn't that insane?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So it really was just kind of like a foot back in, We were like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, like, okay,
Which is
dude.
interesting because you said, if I have anything to come back to, I'm going to come back. And
We
now
did.
you had a house to come back to.
That's right. That's right. So then when the second dear person passed away and I came back for all of that, I mean, the house was completely empty, I mean, literally completely empty. I had my little suitcase in this empty house and nothing else. And I bought like a pack of paper plates and some plasticware. Like that,
Yeah.
that's it. Um, and I mean that with
Mhm.
absolute certainty, and a rental car. Okay.
Mhm.
So when that happened, I ended up staying with my friend, his wife, who's a dear friend of mine, for 2 weeks at her house.
Mm.
And then I came to this empty house and just slowly started, I don't know, accumulating stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know, because we had literally nothing, and it
Yeah.
took Mojo he didn't get back until October. So I was here in August and he couldn't come back until October.
So it was 3 months.
Yeah, because of the dog.
Okay. Yeah, your
Getting our
dog.
other dog back into the United States was an absolute nightmare. So
Yeah.
that took some time.
Yeah. Did you call Mojo and just say, "Hey, I don't think I'm gonna I don't think I'm gonna be catching my flight home. See
Yeah.
see you
Yeah,
later, man."
I did.
Did you?
I actually did. I called him. I don't know even how long. I mean, again, the grief was incredible, and
Yeah.
everything that was going on was just so overwhelming. Um, but at some point, I did call him, and I was like, "Hey, so I'm not coming back."
How did he respond to that?
I mean, he knows me, man. He knows that if I'm saying I'm doing something, I even offered. I was like, "Honey, if you." The flip side of this whole experience that everybody has to understand is that my husband was so happy on this
Mm,
island.
mm.
He loved the if you would have this same podcast with him,
Yeah.
you would get a completely different story,
Yeah. Yeah.
but he's also a kind and reasonable man, you know what I mean? So I told him, even I was like, "Babe, if you love it, I know you do." I'm like, "You can stay." It's like, "Just stay. I'll come once a month." Okay. I'm like, we're adults. We're married. We get to make the rules for our own marriage. Like
Yeah.
whatever we agree on is the gospel in
Yeah.
our marriage,
Yeah.
Like it's like fuck whatever anybody else's rules are,
Right.
whatever. We're doing that, whatever. It can be whatever we want,
Yeah.
Moj. So I offered that, I'm like, but I'm not coming back,
Yeah.
And of course, he's such a dear soul. He's like, well, if my wife's not here, I don't want to be here. I'm like, that's fair, but I'm just putting it out there. If that's what you want to do, I'm open to this non-traditional
Yeah.
arrangement.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it took us 3 months to figure out how to get our dog back. But as soon as that was able to happen, then he came.
Yeah.
And I had a couch and a bed by the time he got back.
Yeah. What did you feel when you made the decision to stay in the US?
Oh, I mean, again, I think it was so complicated because of the circumstances and stuff, but I was relieved, you know. I felt relieved and grateful that I even had that option.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, and people that we met, other people, expats. I hate that term, but anyway,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term, the other expats, some other people that we met. I mean, we met people that got stuck there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for various
Yeah.
life reasons and things. And, so I was grateful that I had the choice, and relieved because I just so desperately wanted to be with my people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you say that was your biggest motivation for staying back
Yes.
home? Yeah.
Yeah, that was the main reason. But I did miss the conveniences
Yeah.
of life in the United States.
Yeah.
I'm
Although
not gonna lie about that. Like
yeah.
that was very challenging there, but that's one of the things since being back, that we have not resumed our level of consumption.
Yeah.
Since being back, we haven't. Our life is much simpler than it ever was now,
Yeah. I think it's interesting in your case. I wonder if you would still be there had you not had the back losses, because loss and grief are huge wake up calls. They're resets in and of themselves.
Correct.
And I'm just, I wonder what would have happened. We don't know, and maybe
Yeah, I don't
would have come
know.
back, but
I
it
don't
kind
know.
of shows you what is most important.
Let me just tell you briefly what was happening when I got the news that this friend had passed away. So it was actually it was the day before my birthday, and all of our best friends that we had met on the island, it was probably about 8 or 9 people. Okay, our dear little village on the island. Like, we never would have survived as long without the people that we met. But anyway, our dear little village had planned a catamaran. We had like gotten a catamaran trip for that day to celebrate my birthday. We were all going out. And it was 6:00 in the morning. My friend called me, told me the news about her husband, and we were scheduled to go on a catamaran at 9 a.m. So there was nothing I could do that day as far as getting a flight out, because there's only one flight, in and out of the island per day at that point. There's more now, but then it was a little bit less. I was completely in shock, and just the beginning stages of grief and loss at that point. And we went on the catamaran trip for my birthday that day. And we're out, in the Caribbean Sea.
Yeah. I feel like that's like such a picture of life, right? It's like
Roatán, and I drank too much, and I cried and cried and cried, surrounded by my island friends who were so loving and wonderful, and kind, And then the next day, it was just like, wow, okay. I'm in the most beautiful place, surrounded by beautiful people, feeling the really fresh loss of my other beautiful people.
Yeah.
And so the next day, on my birthday, I flew back.
What did you learn about yourself through this particular fresh start? Because you've had many times where you've had fresh starts in your life, where you've started over, but there's always lessons. But what about in this particular time? What did you learn about yourself?
Well, I learned that as I get older, I'm not as maybe resilient as I used to be, and it's because I don't want to be. I am very happy to be close to my people. I'm not as I can't do without like I used to be able to, in terms of, moving somewhere new, starting over. I mean, and I've done it. Oh my God. I feel dozens of times probably in my life. You know what I mean? Like, there's been so much change and transition in my life, but I don't have I'm not as resilient with it as I used to be. And I don't want to be,
Yeah.
Like, the older I get, the more I just want to kind of stay put, which is wild, like wild. That's not who I thought I was as a person, but it is now.
Yeah. So you learned that specifically through this experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I learned how much being, kind of relied upon, and having like relational obligations and things, even though they seem maybe annoying at the time or whatever, that really is that's the meat of life, know? I mean, that's what makes me feel alive,
Yeah. Were you searching for something from this restart?
I don't think so. I really don't. I don't think I was searching for something. I don't think I was really running from anything. I literally was just supporting my husband's dream of wanting to sell everything and move to an island. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Really, truly, you know? And that was good enough, because now I can say, you can't say I never made any sacrifices for you. Not that I would hold it over his head like that. Of course not. However.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got
but
that
no,
now.
I'm a much more, I think, content person in a lot of ways, after this experience. And I feel like it slowed me down in all the right ways. I'm more trusting of life, I think.
Yeah. In the ways that it changed you, what surprised you the most? What's the most surprising change?
Well, it's not surprising, but I really couldn't believe that I could appreciate it more. But just how much I appreciate the people that I love so much,
Mm.
you know? Like
Yeah.
um and really seeing that like I'm important in their
Mm.
lives, you know?
Yeah.
Not that I didn't know that. That sounds kind of it sounds a little bit self-centered, but it's really true. Like I've
Yeah.
seen that like wow, okay, my presence in this life in their lives is important.
Yeah. Which is a really beautiful thing to take away from all of this.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
importance of each other in our lives, but just the important role that we play, even when we don't feel that. And even though when we don't believe it about ourselves, there's always someone in our life that we're really, really important to and that needs us.
Yes.
And something like this showing you that for yourself is so beautiful. I mean, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
In general, starting over, I'm not talking about starting over and moving to an island. I'm just talking about the idea of starting over. What do you think people misunderstand about fresh starts and starting over?
You cannot plan the outcome.
Mm,
You can't plan the result.
mhm.
You just can't.
Yeah,
People say, "Oh, I'm going to start over because," and they have goals and they have, which are really just like expectations and things, but it's impossible. It's impossible. Like life happens and the magic of the unknown,
yeah,
works its way through daily life and you just cannot plan the outcome.
yeah, yeah. What would you tell someone who is stuck and wants to make a big life change, is looking for a restart?
Pick a path and just follow the directions. Meaning,
Hmm.
I have a nephew right now who was kind of stuck for a little while, and I'm like, dude, pick a path and
Hmm.
follow the directions. So he picked um, a kind of career type of thing, and then he found the path. Like
Yeah,
like every new thing has kind of a checklist of things that you
yeah,
have to follow. Even us selling everything, moving to an island, there was like a checklist of things. Like, so just make the decision and then just follow the directions,
yeah,
and trusting that each decision and each next step will kind of lead you to the next crumb. It's like following a crumb trail.
yeah,
But you have to make the decision first. Like I couldn't have been wishy-washy of like, oh, maybe we'll move to an island, so let me list my house, maybe we'll do it, maybe we won't, like that wouldn't
yeah,
have worked. It had to be an absolute like, this is what I'm doing, and then following the path forward.
yeah.
you know
It's a powerful way to wrap everything up. Make the decision, follow the path, and then just keep following the breadcrumbs. Yeah.
and trust the process
And trust the
of
process.
whatever that outcome
Yeah.
is going to look like for you.
Yeah. That's cool. So we like to end each show with something called What a Time to Be a Human Awards. So I will give you award categories and you
Okay.
get to assign a winner. They can be someone you know, they can be someone famous, they can be someone who's passed, someone who's living. You can have fun with it or you can be serious, doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. So, first award goes to the Bravest Leap of Faith Award.
I'm going to give that one to my son.
Lovely.
He's taken several leaps of faith in the past couple of years, and they've all just paid off beautifully for
Yeah,
him.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Most likely to have a quarter life crisis and actually do something about it.
My niece, and she's coming up. She's my oldest niece, and she's coming up on quarter life. And I can see that being dramatic and crisis oriented, and I can also see her doing something about it.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. Okay. Most likely to find themselves in the process of getting lost.
I'm sorry. That's a really tough one because I feel like a lot of people I know have a little bit of that, you know?
Mhm.
Like, most people I know
Yeah.
have seasons of being lost, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And they have all emerged somewhat more cohesive on the other
Yeah.
side. You know?
Yeah. Well, maybe you just have a really special community of people around you.
I like to think that I do. I
Yeah.
think they're pretty special.
I think you do. Okay. Most likely to sell everything, but still have no idea what to pack.
Oh Lord.
Uh,
Oh my God. I'm not saying names of
That's
people,
fine.
but
Yeah.
I have people in mind, you know. I have another cousin that I would give her that award because she would
I
find
think
a
I know
way.
this cousin of
Yeah,
yours.
she would find a way, you know, to make that complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Bless.
Last award is the Turned a Detour into a Destination award.
I think I might give that one to my husband, honestly,
Mm,
because we, coming back from the island experiment, we there was a lot of unknowns for us, and we had to reinvent ourselves, as a couple, professionally, like everything. Um, and he took some detours, but man, they've paid off
mm,
just tremendously,
mhm. Yeah.
He's really impressed me with his ability to yeah, dude, to bounce back and just follow. Yeah, just to it was a major detour,
Yeah.
and it has led him to I've never seen him embody who he actually is more than like right now in our lives.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So, yeah, love that man.
Yeah. So, LaVale, if people watching or listening to this only took one thing away from it, what would you want them to take away?
It sounds so cliche, man, but it's so true. But it's true. you know, it sounds so
Let's have
cliche,
it.
but just don't be afraid to take a risk, and trust the process, and trust your reasonings and everything. And it's gonna be hard,
Yeah.
but do it scared, like, do it afraid, do it
Yeah.
tired, just do something,
Yeah.
to again, just to rattle the cage. Like, I feel like that's what happened to us,
Yeah.
was just rattling the cage, yes, in this dramatic way. um but no regrets, and
Yeah.
I've also become more of who I really am, through
Mhm.
that experience. So
Yeah. All right. LaVale, thank you for being on the show and for joining us on Humans Forward.
thank you for having me.
Thanks for watching and sharing this episode. Click the link to watch last week's episode where we talk all about perfectionism and how it might be holding you back. Be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode.